going to take off. I've heard that saying before, but only from a farmer's perspective. That Indian saying is, you tend the cows on your side of the fence, and I'll tend the cows on my side of the fence. So it's not the Indian version of it. But good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? The leaves were pretty driving over today. You ever have a week like that? So to open what we're going to talk about today, which is that's supposed to be a pastor. I'll tell a couple of little stories and kind of figure out what we're going to talk about today. There's a little boy who after church service went to the pastor and told him, he said, when I grow up, I'm going to give you some money. And he said, oh, that's nice. Why do you want to do that? And he said, well, because Daddy said you're one of the poorest preachers we've ever had. And this one goes a little bit more along with the topic that we start is, supposedly Jesus made a return trip to earth, and he was walking along, and he was coming upon people, and he came upon a lame man, and he healed a lame man, and then he came upon a blind man, and he healed a blind man. And he walked a little further, and he came upon this man who was just sobbing his heart out, sitting on the roadside. And so he walked up, and he said, what's the matter? And this man cried out in agony, I'm a pastor. So Jesus sat down beside him, and he put his arm around him, and he cried too. So I was thinking about the message today, and I thought about being a pastor and me being a pastor. So I thought I'd share a little bit of just some of the story. Maybe you've probably heard it before, but maybe not. But and there's kind of the topic we're going to look at, 1 John. We're going to get into that in just a minute. But you know, I was thinking about this week that we don't seem to encourage young people to be pastors anymore as much as we do, or maybe as much as we should at least. And I wondered why that was. Over the years, it's kind of gone away. And maybe some of the reason is because we think back and we know how some of the churches maybe we've been in the past have treated pastors, so we don't want to encourage our young kids to have to go through that. Kind of like the story about Jesus there. But it used to be a really highly regarded profession or calling. And it doesn't seem that way. You know, back in the day, it was kind of a really high calling to be a pastor, to be called to be a pastor. 1 Timothy 3:1 says it's a trustworthy statement that if any man aspires to the office of overseer, which could be an elder or a pastor, it is a fine work he desires to do. So Timothy kind of lays it out that is a very high calling to be called into. And when I was back in high school, probably my senior year mostly, I was kind of trying to think about what I was going to do, where I was going to go to college, and I was talking to my counselors, and they were encouraging me to go to college. So I decided, I was thinking about, well, maybe I ought to be a pastor. You know, I thought maybe I'll go to Bible college in Oregon, Illinois. My friend Tom was there already. He was older than me, and he kept encouraging me to come to Oregon Bible College. He said, oh, it's so much fun up here. We have fun. We play all the time, which wasn't true, I found out. But, and my own pastor, Vivian Kirkpatrick, was encouraging me to be a pastor. I had another pastor who was the head of the national quizzing that I knew, Don Needham. He was encouraging me real strongly to be a pastor. My grandmother encouraged me to be a pastor. When I mentioned to her I might go to Bible college, she right away said, well, you know, we could use a pastor in our family. And I think that was more because she knew some of the bad characters we had in our family. She thought I'd maybe balance it out a little bit. But I was also discouraged from being a pastor back then, believe it or not. Some of my family would discourage me, and I actually had this said to me. They said, you're too smart to be a pastor. And you have to think about that, because that could go you can think of a couple different ways that means. I don't know. I wasn't sure what they meant by that, so I didn't follow it. And my high school counselor discouraged me from going to Bible college. She said, you don't want to waste your time going to a Bible college. You can go to anywhere else you want to go, even Purdue. So she didn't work on scholarships for me because she knew I was thinking about going to Bible college. But I went anyway. I went to Oregon Bible College in Oregon, Illinois, this little town. It was my first chance of living on my own. Only I wasn't on my own because there was a whole lot of rules up there, especially for somebody who was 18 years old and knew it all. And I thought I did back then. But during that time, we fell in love. At least I did. Marilyn maybe did too later. We got engaged while we were up there. We decided to get married, so we moved back home to Lafayette, got married, and we thought, well, we'll set out for a year and we'll go back. We'll go back and I'll finish up and still maybe be a pastor. And it's funny how life gets in the way of your plans, right? You've heard the saying, tell God your plans and you'll hear him laugh, that kind of thing. So about a little over a year later, we had a baby. That kind of messes things up a little bit for as far as traveling. So I got a real job because of that. And by that I mean one that I actually had to go to a factory and work and get dirty and sweaty and work nights and all that. Started making a little bit of money to take care of the family and the baby. And 2.5 years later, we had another baby. So, kind of kept going there. And then I got laid off right away. Right after that our son came along. And so we tried a few times to go back to Oregon to get back into college and finish that kind of that calling I thought I had. But nothing seemed to come together. Nothing worked out. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't find a place to live. And so after about 11 months of being laid off, we were starting to get a little desperate. So we started praying. We prayed really hard one week that something's got to come up. I was tired of standing in line at the unemployment office every Friday, waiting for my $113 check. I was kind of getting tired of going down to the St. Anne's soup kitchen and getting cheese and soup that they had for the day. So we prayed that the first thing that came up, we were going to go after that. We were going to pursue it. And that day we get a letter from Oregon Bible College saying, you guys ought to come back to Bible college. Thought, okay, so that was our answer. And so a couple of days later, we got a job offer from the state police for me to work for them. They said I was either going to be probably in Gary, Indiana, or in Evansville working third shift. So that didn't appeal to me too much. But then a few days after that, I got a letter from Caterpillar. I had applied for a job there months before. And so it seemed like either God was sending us this huge blessing of choices, or he was testing me to see if I was going to go after that first thing I got in the mail. And we did look. We went up there and drove up there and looked around. Still didn't. My argument was I couldn't find a job. God's letter came, but he didn't give me a letter for a job or a letter for a place to live. So plus it was 200 miles away. So I kind of felt like Abraham asking to be moving away from home. And I felt a strong need to take care of my family, obviously. So we were down to a couple of weeks left on unemployment. So I took the job at Caterpillar. But the funniest part of that is it didn't happen right away. I actually went in for the interview at the same time, and I didn't pass all their tests they had. I flunked the print reading test, which is kind of interesting, because now I'm actually, when I finished at Caterpillar, I was teaching that class. But I had to wait about 6 months to get that job. So maybe God was testing me a little bit, and I kind of flunked that test because he still gave me that job, but I had to wait 6 months for it. So I ended up working 32 years in a really good place. I worked in a really nice place, made enough money to take care of the family. It wasn't a whole lot extra, but it was always enough. I kept us involved in church. I was an elder in several different churches. We traveled to Michigan Town over at Country Chapel a lot. Went to Indianapolis for a while, helping start a church down there. But I always felt this pull to get back into pastoral ministry. And then, you all know, I got to get a call from Maple Grove a few years ago, asking if I want to help part-time in the ministry here. So I thought, well, okay, after I retire, that might be a good thing for me to get back into doing what I thought I was supposed to do 37 years ago. So we started coming over to help out. One thing led to another, and I said, yeah, I would do that. And then, as you all know, things changed a little bit, and I ended up becoming your only pastor for about 4 years ago. It's hard to believe it's been over 4 years. And I do have to say and admit that I did fight God on and off on this, and you all probably know that with some of the ways I acted once in a while. Mostly over feeling I was incompetent, didn't know what I was doing, just so you know that. But it has become, and it is one of the probably the most important thing I've ever done. So I want you to know that as far as the work goes, as far as the calling goes. And I want to thank you all very deeply for allowing me to lead you for the last 4 years. There have been some disappointments, there's been some ups and downs, like in anything you do, but it's been a real joy getting to know you all, to serve you for the past 4 years. I look back on and serving you together in this ministry, which is important. I want to make a point that I think my first message was we're in this together, and I still believe that. So I look back on the messages I've written, And I realized not so much what I've tried to teach, but how much I've learned through this whole thing. It's been very good for me, this whole process and this whole thing I've been doing. Not saying I like the discipline of it all. It's kind of like being in college. There's still some rules. Late night calls and some of the conversations I've had to get into. Some of the insecurities I've had about myself. So it's not all been good, but it has been very good, this whole thing. And all the time I was your pastor, I was under this premise that I was going to serve until we found somebody. I remember telling Boyd, maybe 3 to 6 months we'll go, and then we'll figure out we'll find somebody else to do this. Well, God decided that would be 2.5 years. So again, my timing isn't God's timing. And that's when Talon and Rebecca came, and they agreed to move here from South Bend, as you all know. And that's been a really wonderful arrangement for the past couple of years or so. Pastor Talon's done a great job learning the fine details of being a pastor. And his enthusiasm, I hope you see this, and his hard work has helped improve Maple Grove in many, many ways. And he's proven that he can lead a church. And it's been a joy serving with him in this role, this dual role the past year. And so I want to let you know, kind of an official statement, that while we are still going to be around, I've decided to take a break from officially serving as your pastor. Like I said, I'll still be around, help as needed. I got some loose ends, some counseling things to tie up. But we're going to take a little time. I'm going to just take some time to kind of recharge a little bit and spend a little bit more time maybe reading, like I thought I was going to do when I first retired from CAP. Probably spend a little more time in Texas, longer periods of time, so we can see our grandkids, because we miss them quite a bit. So anyway, might even write a few more songs. I haven't written a song in a long time, so maybe I'll have time to think about that. At least that's my intention. But I do have a few things I want to share that goes along with this thought about being a pastor. And this topic I'm going to get into is out of 1 Corinthians chapter 13. You probably all know, that's what they call the love chapter. So I want to share some things out of that, and just I kept coming back to this as I was trying to think of the passage to use today. And Paul calls this the greatest of these. And so I wanted to look at what he's talking about that. So if you want to read along, I'm going to look at 1 Corinthians chapter 13, kind of about half of this chapter. Paul says, "If I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but do not have love, I have become a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have the gift of prophecy and know all the mysteries and all the knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. And if I give all my possessions to feed the poor, and if I deliver my body to be burned, but do not have love, it profits me nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It is not jealous. It does not brag. It is not arrogant. It doesn't act unbecomingly. It doesn't seek its own. It's not provoked. It does not take into account a wrong suffer. It does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails." And then in verse 13, he closes this chapter by saying, "But now abide faith, hope, and love, these three. But the greatest of these is love." Other than Janet was talking about this this Indian language up there. Nobody seemed to know that today. And other than a couple of years of high school French, and the fact that I can still count to 30 in French, my grandkids are impressed by that. And I know a few phrases in French. Other than that, I don't speak another language than English. And sometimes I'm not even sure I speak very good English very well. So how many others? Anybody else speak another language that you can actually speak? Anybody else in here? Nobody? Okay, so I'm not alone on that one. Does anybody speak the language of angels? Or that language that Janet showed? Because Paul mentions the language of angels in what I just read. Does anybody have the gift of prophecy here? Maybe you do. And if you do, that'd be great. We need to listen to you more. Does anybody know all the mysteries of God or have all knowledge? If you raise your hand, we're going to ask you to teach Bible study. So, has anybody ever here removed a mountain because of your great faith? Anybody ever done that? Now, I'm not even sure I have the faith to even walk up a mountain anymore. But has anybody sold their possessions to feed the poor? Anybody done that? That would be a very noble thing, a very good thing to do. Has anybody ever offered your body to be burned as a sacrifice? I'm going to guess no, because you're all here. This isn't a zombie church, so we don't have that. But Paul mentions all these examples to prove a point, to make a huge point. He says you can do all these things. He mentions all those things I just mentioned, but if you don't have love, he says, then you're nothing. Squat, nothing, is what he says. Pretty huge statement. Surely offering my body to be burned as a sacrifice, that's got to count for something, right? Or if I can walk up to a mountain by faith and just have it removed and thrown into the ocean, that's got to count for something. Yet Paul says, if I don't have love, it doesn't count for anything. It doesn't even count for anything. So what kind of love is that? What kind of love is that? What does that love look like that Paul's talking about there? Because I want to know what Paul calls the greatest of these, greater than hope, greater than faith. So let's review what this list is, it looks like. And as we go through this, if you think of something that reminds you that has happened to you as you've been involved with this church that goes along one of these, then I'm going to give you a chance to talk about it and maybe bring it up. And if you have an example, then bring it up and talk about that a little bit. But love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not jealous. Love does not brag. Love is not arrogant. Love does not act unbecoming or rude. Love is not provoked. Love does not demand its own way. Love is not provoked. Love does not keep record of being wronged. Love does not rejoice in unrighteousness. Love rejoices in the truth. And then love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. And finally, the last one Paul mentions is love never fails. So does anybody have any experiences? I'll give you a chance if you want to just mention something, take a minute to. And I'm going to go through my own list too. So if you think of something, just get my attention, raise your hand. So I'm going to throw out a few things that I thought about as I went through this list. And here's a list again. So if you see something in there that reminds you something somebody's done for you maybe here, then it will encourage somebody else. Let's bring it up. Because we're doing this. We're not doing it because we're arrogant. Paul, what do you got?
A couple of those seem to really fall in well with parenting. That's the top one.
Yeah. That's funny you said that. Not funny, it's prophetic. Maybe you got some prophecy thing. My first example, love is patient. And I was going to mention Paul. Paul came up, and maybe some others too, came up with the idea to let the little kids help with the offering. Many months ago, maybe a couple years ago. And it'd be real easy, wouldn't it, to look at that and see some of the chaos that goes on with that and become kind of frustrated, by watching that, wouldn't it? But we don't. Through love, we see those kids are developing this sense of helping serve the church by doing that. And that we do that through love. And patience, because of love, is one of the greatest allies a kid can have. It's one of the greatest allies we can have through love, is give a kid patience. So that was the example I thought of. It's interesting that Paul mentioned it. So stop me if you got more, but love is kind. I've seen several of you get up and this morning again, open the front door for people coming in, or either carrying something, or carrying kids, or maybe have a walker and having trouble getting through the door. I've seen you jump up and go open the door and help out. That's some kind of kindness we have, letting people get in and out of the wind or the rain. That's just a small act, and there's tons of examples that I could have thought were kind. Love is not jealous, does not brag. Jealousy and boasting are self-inflicted wounds, and they stem from pride, believe it or not. If you're jealous and you're boasting, that comes from pride. This church is not a jealous group. I've seen how we cheer each other on. When one of the youth gets an award or something happens in school, we pat them on the back and when we applaud them. And this helps foster confidence and a feeling that they're loved in this group. I know we do that. Love is not arrogant. Another self-inflicting wound that comes from insecurity. And I've not seen this evident in this church either. Instead, I see a spirit of humility in how we talk to each other. We're not an arrogant group. We don't walk past people, when they're wanting to talk to us. Love does not act unbecoming or rude. And this goes along a little bit with the arrogant thing. It's fun every Sunday morning to see people congregating just barely inside the doors. And the reason is because we're not rude. We don't walk past people when they're there to greet us or when they're there to say good morning. Welcome to our worship. We want to feel included when we come in here. Love does not demand its own way. In our board meetings, we have a good history of talking through things when we have a disagreement or we're trying to find common ground for something. And, there have been and there always will be disagreements, but we rarely do we ever not come to a consensus when we have an issue come up. Just one example of many others that we can come up with. Anybody got anything yet before I keep going? If you do, raise your hand. Love is not provoked or irritable. That's another one. And this one can pop up from time to time, right? When we come to church, we're irritable. You know, we had a bad morning getting the kids ready because they didn't want to get up and get going. It took us forever to get them going here. When I'm driving over through Clinton County and I get behind this slow driver going 54 miles an hour, you know, and I get irritated and I can't pass in Clinton County because there's no dotted line there. So I come in irritated. You know, there's all kinds of issues we come in here irritated, isn't it? But we get here, we're greeted with a smile, maybe a handshake, maybe a hug, and the irritability all begins to melt away, doesn't it? Because we're in the presence of people being led by the Spirit through love. Really important one. Love does not keep record of being wrong. Okay, this one I have to admit, I struggle with this one. And I know some of you do too. I've seen it. But God gave us this dreaded thing called a memory, and He gave us feelings. And so when our feelings get hurt, we remember, and we hold on to it. We hold on to it. I know I do sometimes. So let me encourage you with a couple things, a couple thoughts. Most always, when somebody does something to wrong us, it's not their intention to do that. You know, most people, and I think all the people here, don't set out on a certain day and they get up and say, you know what, I think I'm just going to screw with Joe today. Just to make his day a miserable day. You know, it might feel like that to you, but that's not usually the case. It's usually a case of misunderstanding. And the second thing is this. Life is too short to hang on to a hurt that probably came from a misunderstanding. So let it go. Let it go. I'm talking to myself. Forgive. Forgive. Remember that pesky little thing about forgiveness? What's that pesky little thing about forgiveness? If we can't forgive others, then what? God can't forgive us. So that's a pesky little thing about forgiveness. Let it go. It's a misunderstanding. Okay, the next one. Love does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth. Could be a whole sermon on this topic. You know, injustice and sorrows are bound to happen. Remember last week's message from Talon. Some things just happen because of time and chance. You know, so we got to remember that. And this church has a track record of feeling the pain of others going through a tough time. You know, we bring a meal to a person who's laid up. We make a phone call with an encouraging word to somebody who we think needs that. We offer to go pick up groceries. We offer to help with kids. You know, we give money to help people in need. And we need to keep doing more of that. We need to keep doing that because we love one another. And because of that, we help those in need. And the part about the truth, you know, we rejoice when the truth of the gospel is preached. We preach biblical truth. At least we try to here. We try to preach biblical truth. And when the light of truth shines on some injustice that's going on, we rejoice with that. That's what love does. That's what Paul says love does. Then he says 4 things. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. So I'll just kind of sum that one up. You know, think about how long this church has been going on. You know, think about all the many decades this church has existed. You know, the old location over on J Street, many, many years ago. A few years, I think, in a hotel. I was there a few times with you there. And I don't know how long we've been here now. What, 17 years maybe? I'm trying to remember. Something like that. But think about how long it's been going on. That this church has been here. That we have been coming here to worship God and to serve our Lord Jesus. You know, and think about the things that could have kept you from coming here. You know, but we didn't. You kept coming. You endured. You kept believing things and hoping things. Think about all the things we believe in, all the things we have in common. You know, all the many things that we hope for. And the endurance that we have to keep our faith. Keep our faith. And it's all tied together by love. By love. What's our motto? Love God. Love people. Because that's what we do and that's who we are. And then finally, the final statement Paul says is love never fails. Love never fails. Ever. He says it never fails. You know, when all the things start falling apart, you got something?
That kind of love that you're talking about is it's all-inclusive and it comes from God. And the Greek word for it is agape.
Yeah, that's a deep love. Right? Yeah, I think Greek has many different words for love. there's at least 4 or 5 maybe, or something like that. But agape is, I think, yeah, it's the deep love. It's what God has for us as well. Yeah, that's a good point. So when things are falling apart and we have this love that comes from God. And that's the point that he's making with this love never failing. And it comes through his son Jesus, God's son Jesus. And it will not fail. He says that love will not fail. Love's the glue that holds us together. It's the shield of our faith that protects us. It gives us strength to see past any faults or any problems we think we might have with others. That's what love does. Kind of like our family sometimes, right? This is a touchy one, especially around holidays. It doesn't matter what happens in the family, but we still love. We still love. Love never fails. Love remains. A lot of country songs written with that theme. It remains through anything. And then, faith, hope, and love. Those are the 3 that are mentioned as Paul closes out this chapter. And those 3 things are necessary in this age we live in. Faith, hope, and love. But in the age to come, faith is going to give way to sight. Think about your faith. Faith is going to be there. You're not going to need the faith because you're going to be seeing what that faith was about when the kingdom of God comes and we're there. And hope's going to turn into experience. The things we hope for, we're going to experience. But the one thing that is eternal is love, because God is love. So I want to conclude this teaching, this message, with this core teaching from John, the Apostle John. And John wrote this letter when he was an old man. And he was full of wisdom, he's full of spirit. And so these words are really sage advice that we ought to look at. And it leaves us with a really powerful teaching. I want to read 1 John chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. He says, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God. And everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. The one who does not love does not know God, for God is love." That's where you get that. God is love. "By this, the love of God was manifested in us, that God sent his only begotten Son into the world so that we might live through him. In this is love, not that we love God, but that he loved us and he sent his Son to be the propitiation for our sins. Beloved, as God so loved us, we ought also to love one another." He closes in verse 16. He says, "God is love." Again, God is love, and the one who abides in love abides in God, and God abides in him. "By this, love is perfected with us, so that we may have confidence in the day of judgment." I can't add a whole lot to what John says there. That pretty much speaks for itself when we read that. Beloved, let us love one another, because love is from God. That's where it comes from. I've learned so much in these past 4 years. I just can't tell you how much I've learned. And I can't thank you enough for putting your trust in me to be a pastor. Anybody have any other examples before I get into this closing? Anything else you want to share? There's a lot of stories you could all tell about love for this church. I've been blessed beyond measure. Yeah. Phyllis.
Yeah, I'd like to say that one of the biggest examples I think we've had is you and Marilyn. There were times when I didn't want to get out of bed to come a couple of miles, and you guys drove all that way, and I think that was a love for us and a love of God and what he would have you do. So that would be
Thanks.
My mom still talks about you visiting her in the hospital.
That was a fun visit. You forget things you do, and you forget some of the things that happen until you start thinking about it. It's good to think about things like this so you can remember, what God's done for you, and maybe how you've helped somebody else or somebody's helped you. And I appreciate that. I didn't always like it up driving over here. and we'll still see it. We're still going to see you also. But I've been blessed. I've been blessed beyond measure from this church. So I want you to know that. So has Marilyn. She wants to say that too. I've been blessed to be able to serve alongside Pastor Talon for a couple of years now. I've learned a lot from him. I hope he's learned maybe a thing or two that are the good things from me, not some of my bad habits. But, and he's been a blessing to many of you as well, I know. So as I take a break from officially serving as your pastor, I just want you to know I'm not leaving the church. We're still going to be around, so we're going to help out as we can from time to time. But as I turn my official duties, what my part of the duties have been over to Talon 100%. With the elders, and that's a point I want to make. You know, the elders and the pastors are the leaders and serving as leaders of this group. But I want to do something. I want to give you something you can do for me. In the bulletin, I found this little card, and I made Talon print it out because he was over here and I wasn't. But this is something you can do for me. Keep this. He did a really nice job making this laminated. I would have been as good on it, but keep this in your Bible if you would. And just this is a reminder to pray for your pastor. We take for granted sometimes that our leaders need help and encouragement from time to time. I could always tell when you guys were praying for me, and I could always feel the pressure at times when you're not. So I want to share this list. It's not all inclusive. It's a really good list. As the coming years, as you think about it, as you're reading your Bibles and try to do that every day, maybe say a prayer for one of these, pick one of these out or all of them. So just the list here. Pray things you can pray. You know, as it says here, pastoral business is like any other business. It's a dangerous business and it's a sacred business. And here's how you can pray. Pray for spiritual protection. That's important. Clean heart. That's also important for a pastor. It's hard to be a pastor if you don't have strength and support from others praying for that. Spiritual encouragement. We all need encouragement. Pastors need it as well. Pray for wisdom. That way we'll get wisdom given to us if you have wisdom for the pastor. Doctrinal faithfulness. That's important as well. We don't just tell stories in here. These aren't feel-good, good news type of things. This is biblical things. We want to preach biblical doctrine here. Pray for health. One we kind of neglect and forget about. Alan was sick this week. I know when I've been sick, it's hard to get a lesson together. It's hard to lead when you're not feeling well. And for a strong marriage, it's on the bottom, probably maybe one of the bigger ones is why it's the biggest box there. That's also very, very important. Protect your hearts, all of you. Pray for everybody on that one. But pray for a strong marriage. I'd like to close in. I want to have the elders come up, and we're going to spend just we can either sing first or do this first. What do you think? We're going to have prayer for Pastor Talon and Rebecca. Have the elders come up and pray for them. Do that first. So let's do that now. So if the elders want to come up, we're going to have Pastor Talon and Rebecca come up. We're going to pray for them and going forward from this point on.